We can now bring in our international affairs editor, Angela Diffley. Angela, good afternoon. Pressure continues to mount on the Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. We saw those protests overnight, once again calling for him to go.
Yes, and indeed outside his house, not for the first time. They are calling for fresh elections, and momentum is growing. Of course, we saw last week the decision of two key members of the National Unity government, Benny Gantz and Gadi Eisenkot, two centrists who left, and they said the reason they left was that in the war cabinet, of which they were part, political considerations were taking precedence over military decisions, and that they had given Netanyahu an ultimatum to come up with a long-term strategy for Gaza, and he had failed to do so. So once they had gone, for a long time, people who dislike this government had been calling on Benny Gantz to pull out of it and precipitate some sort of event, and things are gathering momentum since. Yesterday, of course, we saw Netanyahu deciding not to have a new war cabinet, and that was, in a way, the only way he could keep out the two very far-right members of the cabinet who wanted to be in that war cabinet, Bezalel Smotrich and Itamar Ben-Gvir, both of them very much to the far right, very hawkish. They do not want any kind of ceasefire. And he has chosen not to have a war cabinet, but to have ad hoc meetings with key people. It is looking messier and messier. It has to be said, Netanyahu still has a majority, but he relies very much on the parties of those two far-right politicians in order to stay in power. And as well as that, there are some other issues which are causing problems domestically. Today we heard Yair Lapid, who is a key opposition leader, not in the National Union government, and he has been talking, he's a long-time opponent of this idea that ultra-religious Jews are exempt from military service. This issue is being debated and is coming to a head at the moment because very many Israelis whose sons and daughters go to war, have to go to war, are becoming increasingly annoyed that the very religious minorities do not have to send their sons and daughters to war, and they are often the most hawkish over wars.
Indeed. Let's talk about fears that this conflict could spread, particularly when it comes to Hezbollah and Lebanon.
Yes, we've had the US envoy today saying that there needs to be an urgent de-escalation of this cross-border exchange of fire between Lebanon's Hezbollah and the Israeli army, which has been going on for so long. Hezbollah has stepped up attacks recently, and there were reports that a Hezbollah drone had hit an Israeli tank today. This, of course, after Israel killed a senior Hezbollah commander. It is true that the people of Lebanon almost certainly do not want an escalation in the war with Israel. The situation, however, in Lebanon is that it is an extremely dysfunctional country at the moment. Hezbollah are a powerful militia, arguably more powerful than the Lebanese army. They control the south, but it's in no one's interest, in Lebanon's interest or in Israel's interest, for this thing to escalate, and the Americans will be doing all they can to dampen events down.
We'll see how that pans out. Thank you very much for that, Angela. Angela Diffley there.